Welcome to Industry Pulse. Today, we are diving deep into the consumer battery market, and we're using the freshly released 2025 annual reports from all the big players to figure out what is really going on and who's coming out on top. So, it's the question everyone in tech is asking. But as we dug into the data, it became pretty clear that the answer isn't as simple as you might think. In fact, asking who's winning, that might be the wrong question entirely. And that's because the 2025 reports make one thing crystal clear. The industry didn't just compete this year. It fundamentally split. We're talking two different wars being fought with two completely different sets of rules.
Okay, let's get into this great divergence. We're seeing companies pick sides, choosing fundamentally different paths to win, and it is reshaping the entire landscape of how we power our world.
So on one side, you've got the technology leaders. Think companies like LG Energy Solution and CosMX. Their whole game plan is cooked up in the lab, all about pushing the physical limits of what a battery can do. And on the other side, you've got the brand leaders, titans like Energizer and Anfu, who are mastering the market, not with patents, but with pure dominance on the store shelf. What's so fascinating is how neatly the 2025 data sorts all these companies. You can actually map them into four distinct groups based on two things: how much they're spending on R&D versus the kind of margin they're making. You can see the tech leaders right there, spending big on innovation, and then the brand leaders, with barely any R&D but just massive gross margins. And the numbers, well, they really tell the story. Look at this, 12.89%. That's the R&D intensity for a company like CosMX. They are pouring a massive 12.89% of their revenue. That's around $258 million right back into developing next-gen tech. And then you see this number, a whopping 50.71%. That's the gross margin for Anfu, the company behind Nanfu batteries. See, their power doesn't come from a lab coat. It comes from 33 years of total brand dominance in China. It is a completely different, but just as effective way to win. So the tech leaders, they're basically locked in this relentless arms race for pure performance. And they're obsessed with two key metrics that really define what a modern battery is. First up is energy density. The best way to think about this is like the gas tank in your car. The higher the density, the more energy or gas you can cram into the same physical space. For you and me, that means our phone or laptop lasts way longer on a single charge. The second one is cycle life, and this is kind of like the tread on a tire. It's how many times you can fully charge it up and run it down before it just starts to wear out. And for those expensive devices you plan on keeping for years, this is absolutely critical. Meanwhile, the brand leaders are playing a totally different sport. Energizer isn't winning because of its cycle life. It's winning because it absolutely owns distribution in North America. And a company like Cell, they're not even trying to compete on phone batteries. They have a virtual monopoly on specialized cells for things like smart grids and military gear. Their whole focus is on owning the shelf and owning a spot in your mind. Okay, so this is the crucial part. Why is this big split happening right now? The answer is one of the single biggest forces in tech today: artificial intelligence. Think about it. The explosion of AI PCs and AI phones, devices that run these incredibly powerful models right there in your hand, is putting demands on batteries that were just, well, they were unimaginable a few years ago. All of a sudden, it's not good enough for a battery to just last a long time. Now, it needs to handle these intense, short bursts of power for AI tasks. It has to manage all the extra heat that creates. And it has to do all that while still being in a super slim device. It has to be smarter, stronger, and way, way cooler. And all this is forcing some massive R&D spending. I mean, just look at EV Energy's annual report. They're not just designing new batteries anymore, they're building AI intelligent manufacturing systems, an entire new lab specifically to create the next generation of cells that AI hardware is screaming for. This is a perfect example of how this demand is creating entirely new markets. You've got companies like Greenway now developing these super advanced battery packs, not just for phones, but for these new AI-powered sectors like warehouse robots and high-performance e-bikes. And what's the result of all this investment? We're seeing major breakthroughs. This quote from the CosMX report really says it all. They're already mass-producing a new battery that packs 25% more power into the exact same space. I mean, that is a gigantic leap forward. All right, so let's look ahead. What does all of this mean for the future of power?
Well, the big takeaway from 2025 is pretty clear. The battery world is more dynamic and, frankly, more complicated than it's ever been. You have this huge split between tech and brand strategies. You have AI just pouring fuel on the innovation fire. And then, as if that's not enough, you have new regulations and supply chain shifts creating even more challenges and opportunities.
So yeah, the industry as a whole is healthy, but the path to victory, it's completely fractured. Success is no longer about who can just build the most batteries. It's about choosing the right fight and the right strategy for the right market. Which leaves us with one final, really provocative question, one that's going to define this industry for the next decade. As AI makes every single device in our lives hungrier and hungrier for power, who's going to win? Is it the company with the most advanced tech in the lab or the one with the most trusted brand on the shelf? The war is on.